No one is supposed to watch somebody jump out of a building.
On September 11th, 2001, I was at our church. I saw in a replay on Bloomberg TV what looked like a plane hitting the World Trade Center.
Well, all I could see at that point was a lot of smoke. And looking at that, there had been 2 attacks.
So now I'm uptown. I come down. I said to my friend eventually, I'm out of here. I go down, get on my motorcycle. It's dead silence. I had no idea the towers had collapsed. I'm on my way home, and the Lord drops in my heart, go to your house and get a collar. Because my collar, the cop saw me, they let me in. Cop says to me, Father, maybe you'd like to pray for these body parts. I knelt down and I prayed for families. I still had no idea that the towers had come down.
The officer that was escorting me through Ground Zero, I asked him how he was doing, and a typical response with the NYPD, oh, I'm fine. And he didn't take more than 3 steps. And then he said, well, I'm not sure. And a couple more steps, and he says, no, I'm not fine. And then he turned with tears. He said, I'm damn angry. What would have been a 5-minute walk through that area, I ended up spending 6 hours getting to other officers that he was working with and some of the firemen that were there. And we began to talk, debrief, pray, and it became kind of like a church.
I couldn't think of anything to say, to preach to anybody. It's like, what do you tell them, right? But the Lord quickened to me the importance of a ministry of presence. So now I was the closest link to God that these guys saw in a time of despair. Everybody was working really hard. I'll never forget when we all went on the pile to try to save a life that was in there. What I started to do is just pray prayers that they can repeat. Simple prayers, connecting them with God, letting them know that God is here, God is in the middle of all of this.
It's important not to forget, because it has affected so many people's lives, that if we forget it, we will do them a disservice. My thoughts were, how big is God? You know, God's big enough to handle this. God's big enough for our sorrows. God's big enough for our difficulties. God's big enough to handle the justice that needs to be meted out. God's big enough for all the hearts that were broken, all the kids who didn't have a dad anymore. So I tried to help folks see that is the truth, that God was big enough.